February 12th, 2025. It is approximately 10:10. I apologize for the delay, technical difficulties. Melanie, would you please do a roll call?
Yes, ma'am. Commissioner DeVito?
There's what?
Commissioner DeVito is present.
Nice microphone.
Too much?
Commissioner Lori?
Present.
Commissioner Moore?
Present.
Commissioner Burton?
Here.
Mayor Myers?
Present.
And we have City Attorney Donald Combs, and we have George Forbes with us today. Yes, with the Florida City County Management Association, and we also have Jim Hansen.
That was Dawn. That was Dawn. Okay. Okay, with that, Commissioner Moore, would you please lead us in invocation? Please stand at your right.
Let's bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we want to thank you once again for waking us up this morning. We thank you for your grace and for your mercy. And we thank you for looking over the whole neighborhood. We ask that you bless this meeting on today. Help us, oh God, to make the right decisions and learn those things that we need to learn in order to do well for the city and for our people. And Father God, we ask that you bless this day, for this is the day that you have made, and we will rejoice. And all these blessings we do ask in that Son Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Did I get rid of that humming? I tried to.
Yeah.
But I did. Just more coming.
Good morning. Are you looking for a different meeting
No, we're looking for the clerk's court.
for the clerk?
Yes,
Okay, we're in a commission meeting right now. Is there something that maybe the receptionist can help you with?
yes. I just want an eviction packet.
An eviction package? Okay.
I'll be right back, Mayor.
Okay.
2 seconds, thank you.
No, that's okay. No, you're fine. Thank you.
Ma'am, ma'am, yes, to come with me?
That helps.
So the meeting, we're here today, based on our recent contract negotiations and how they went. And I think as we go forward with this, we have some examples of some contracts. Commissioner, I want to stress to everyone that the professionalism and respect for the process. There's a couple of things that I pulled out that the selection of a city manager is one of the most critical decisions for the future of our city, and it must be handled with professionalism and integrity. As we all know, we're elected officials. We're not skilled in running a city necessarily. We're here to represent the people and to do our very best with the guidance of a city manager who is here to run the city. Candidates who go through the rigorous selection process deserve to be treated with respect, especially during contract negotiations. And if we fail to conduct ourselves professionally, and we all must be very careful, because keep in mind, we are on Zoom. We've decided to do that so that the people can have access to our meetings, that we risk damaging the city's reputation and discouraging future top-tier candidates from applying. Commitment and stability in leadership. Stability in city leadership is crucial for economic development, infrastructure projects, and long-term planning. Mishandling of contract negotiations or treating candidates unfairly sends negative messages about our ability to work together as a governing body. And I think today that's something that we need to really come together on, that we are a governing body and we need to try our very best to work together. The city needs strong visionary leaders to guide us forward, and the commission must be unified in its commitment to securing the best possible person for this job. Moving forward, we have lessons that we've learned. We must reflect on how the process unfolded and ensure that the future negotiations are conducted with transparency, fairness, and in the best interest of the city. Open communication, trust, and good faith negotiations should be standard for handling key appointments. I remain committed, and I know each and every one of you remain committed to making sure that as we go forward, that we look for that person that is going to best lead this city into the future. And so today, as we go forward with these looking at this contract, we have several of them in here that we have.
Mayor, can I jump in for a minute?
Sure, absolutely.
First of all, I want to say, regardless of the fact that the last negotiation process didn't work out, I thought we worked together pretty darn well as a new venture, to do the last, advertisement, go through the process. I thought Commissioner Lori, had a great way to look at it when he said, look at it as a dry run or an effort to go through. We had good candidates. However, it was not my understanding that this meeting was to be just about a contract. I think, at the end of the meeting at the meeting where we reviewed the negotiation and where we set this meeting, Commissioner Burton and I, said specifically that we needed to talk about the process that we're going to go through. I had some suggestions for how we need to go through the process. I think I saw something up on Commissioner Lori's iPad. But I'm noticing in the materials, the ICMA materials, they talk about steps prior to recruitment. And I thought specifically, I see Commissioner Burton nodding her head. To me, the first thing I think we need to do before we get to the actual elements of the contract is to talk about those things that we would like to firm up as far as our process would go, how we're gonna go about this. And I made a list, and I'm sorry I didn't have time to make copies for everybody. But I think Commissioner Burton said she would have some things, and Commissioner Lori seems to have teed up something on this.
And I have some things as well. And George is here, and George is asked to speak to it too. And I do believe that as we went through the process, the beginning of our process, we were quite successful. I think it's as we got towards the end of our process where things broke down.
Well,
And-
actually, there are things, I mean, I think we did well considering that there were quite a few things we didn't nail down, and I made specific notes about things that I thought, both us and staff, need to, adjust the next time around. I think there were some gaps, starting with identifying who's gonna do what, and a couple of things relating to the advertisement. I think there's some small but very significant things.
With that, I'm gonna ask George, because George was our leader in this. So George, I'm gonna ask you if you would please, if you would get up. First off, I thank you for coming today. Do we need to move the mic over, or? You wanna come over
Yes.
here, George?
Let's just have them sit here.
Let's sit here.
Did you hand me that back? No.
And George
And maybe, move this.
can give us some, and I would look to George as a professional in this to give us, highlights, lowlights.
Maybe we should move those nameplates for George, so. There you go.
Thank you.
Is this working?
Yes.
So I agree, I thought when all is said and done, with the up to selection came, I actually thought it went pretty well, but I think there are some improvements that could be made. And the first one is that when the resumes start coming in and they need to be delivered to me every Friday, so we don't get stacks of them. But at the same time they go to the senior advisors, the resumes need to go to the council members. there seemed to be some miscommunication there last time, I can tell you, the senior advisors were never asked. I guess we just assumed, which is a horrible thing to do, that you were getting at the same time that we were, and we did not know that you were not getting it. So the first thing that needs to be done, in my opinion, is you get the resumes at the same time, but we do. The second thing that needs to be improved is a go-to person. I would like for the senior advisors, like we need, there are certain times, like when the resumes come in, sending a letter to the applicants, things like that. I'd like to go through the mayor to make sure those things get done. And ask her, okay, we have this letter, it's gonna be the same one we sent last time, would you please send these to the applicants. So the applicants need to know, where are they in the process, what is the process?
George,
Uh,
put the microphone right in front of you, you have to speak right into it.
What is the process? I think that having I thought that myself, I thought the tour of the city went well. I'd like to ask that the mayor do that again, because that's as good of a tour of the city as you're gonna get without having to pay for one. So reception of the
My next
citizens,
career.
I thought,
My next career.
the reception of the citizens, I thought went real well, with giving each candidate approximately 3 minutes to introduce themselves, get an idea how well they talk. The interview questions I thought was kind of a surprise to me, because the idea was to ask all the questions and ask the same questions to each candidate. That didn't happen, and, that's up to you, but I'd ask you, I gave you all well over a month to look at the interview questions, so I suggest you look at the interview questions again and decide as a group which one to ask, not ask how you want to do it. But the whole idea is, those interview questions were based on what you said the needs of the city were in the surveys, and they were designed for you to ask everybody the same questions, so you get an idea of, it doesn't mean you can't ask, subsequent questions or follow-up questions, but they ask them all the same questions, so that way you can kind of measure them equally as far as, what their abilities are.
Mayor, can I ask a question of George about that? Okay, so I think we misunderstood, and it raises a question to me. You gave the questions to us and said that you felt those could be confidential, not
Yeah.
subject to being given out to the public. So I guess we all kept them in a folder and kept them confidential, given that meetings are public and anybody can listen to the tape.
Yeah.
How do we, I'm not sure how we talk about those questions and make that decision unless we meet, very close prior to the interview.
Well, I think you're only talking about changes made, so to me, it would be, yes, one thing we're going to talk about later is applicants will watch the council meeting. But I think that, one way to do it is just to go to the clerk with any changes that you might want and have her bring them back. But I understand your question, and I think that another way is just to write questions, write changes that you want to have, and then just, again, I think giving it to the clerk or another employee would work also.
You can also number them and do them by number.
And it's really not that big a deal, unless you're going to talk about every question.
Yeah.
If you want to just make some changes, I don't really think it's a big deal to council me to say, look, we're going to change a few questions, but yeah, they are confidential, and by law, they can be confidential to test until then, but I think it's okay if you're going to make a couple of changes, kind of just make the changes. If you feel more comfortable with council meeting, as long as you don't read every single one, I think you'll be fine.
But the takeaway is you want us to have a standard list of questions and not so much variation, and there was variation.
Yes.
Okay, so standard versus too much variation.
Thank you.
Then I think that, another thing I want to emphasize is, at the end of the process, you don't need to hire somebody on the spot. If you want, you can bring somebody back, you can bring the top 2 candidates back. It doesn't have to be the same week, it could be the next weekend, but it could be the same weekend. But I just think that you don't need to feel pressure that you have to hire somebody that day. I also think that one of the things that's critical, and Don said this a lot at the last meeting, Don doesn't have the authority really to negotiate a contract. I mean, he can do what he's within the parameters he's scheduled, but to me, what normally I would do in these is I would call, when you select the 5 finalists or how many we're going to select, I would call the candidates, give them the salary ranges and a few things and say, look, if you want more than this, you're not going to get it. This is the range we have, this is our function here. We put what we're looking for in the advertisement. If you want more than that, it's not going to happen. And that way you avoid situations, which we've all had, where people try and play games with it. But I also think it's critical that the mayor and the attorney negotiate the contract, because the mayor's representing the council, and somebody representing the council needs to be there. And then, of course, she's gonna bring it back to you to make sure that you approve of it. And so any discussions with her ahead of time, what the parameters are critical. You need to know what the parameters are before you go into negotiations. In my opinion, normally the mayor would be there with the attorney. So the other thing is that when everybody remembers, if the candidates have any sense at all, they're gonna watch these meetings. And so it's critical that, I found in some ways the younger managers are different than the older managers. Because they're much more location sensitive. In other words, it's not just the salary, it's not just what you're paying them, it's also, the city. Do they want to live in a city? Is it the right location for them? But just as important, you five are their bosses. So when they watch you at a council meeting, watch you on TV, they're getting an impression of, just like you, if you were looking for a job, would you go work for a boss that you thought was not gonna, be very helpful to you or your career? So I think we need to be real careful at the meetings to make sure we project a real degree of professionalism. And I think also, because it is a two-way street, I'd like all of you to be thinking from now until you hire the new person, how are you gonna help the new city manager be successful? That's real important, because they're looking for someone to go to a job. Yes, it's a small city, so at some point they may well want to move to a larger city, but while they're here, we want them to do a top-notch job for the city. And, one of the most important things a person looks at is, what is your intent towards me? We're looking at, relationships with anybody, what's your intent towards me? Is your intent to help me, to be a good manager and do a good job here? Or is your intent just to throw roadblocks in front of me, in which case I don't really want to come here? So I think those are all critical things. And this is something that Jim Hansen really wanted me to focus on this morning, is to make sure everybody understands the two-way street, and your reactions up here and how you react are gonna be real important. Other than that, again, I thought our overall process was very good, despite the fact we may have, hit a few little potholes. I think we accomplished what we wanted to accomplish. We selected somebody who is well qualified, and my thoughts are we just need to, move forward and make a few changes here and there and move forward and hopefully find somebody who's real good for the city.
Thank you, George. Commissioner DeVita.
Sure. George, thank you very much. Very helpful. That's the whole, your whole participation, and Jim's have been very helpful. A couple of things that I made notes of, but one thing you did mention is at the point of the finalist interviews, you and Jim, I believe, recommended that we choose a backup, and we did not do that. Do you think the next time around that we should revisit that, or how do you see that recommendation as, was that just for that particular situation, or is that a good thing to do as just a rule of thumb?
It's a good thing to do always, and I think for a couple of reasons, but most importantly, if things don't work out with the candidate you selected, then you've got somebody to back up. Now, if you don't think any other candidates would fit in here, then don't do it. If you think there's somebody else who could do a good job, I think it's very important to pick up backup. That also makes sure that the successful candidate knows that he doesn't have to give a barrel, that there are other options from a negotiation point of view. So I think that the selected backup is critical.
Okay, Mayor, I have one more question.
Yes, thank
One of the things that we kind of, had to develop as we went along in the process was what kind of background check should we have and when should we do it? And I still feel, to me, like, as if we, the commissioners, we don't really know what they're checking when they check the background. And I think, as well, I was reading in our minutes from the fall, Jim said once we invite the candidates that we should have the background check.
Well, there's two ways to do this, and it depends on our schedule. Certainly, the best way to do is do background checks, or start from at least the basic one. A background check is not a background check. It's like building a building. There's all sorts of buildings, and you asked a great question, which is, what are you looking for in a background check? I think when the you pick the 5 finalists, it'd be good to do just a basic background check, which basically means they're checking credentials and checking what they can find on the internet, which is a lot actually, usually. And then, but I think once you get down to the final, and that's, by the way, not very expensive to do. But when you get down to the final candidate, I think you're going to do a much more detailed background check. Now, the most detailed ones, please stay in your seats, run $2,000 plus, where they actually go to the person's city and talk with the council members, talk to the employees. That's very, very expensive. That's one way. But you can do, there's all sorts of ways to do that. So you need to find a company, and I think that there's a couple in that booklet, but there's a lot more out there. And they will go through and give you different prices depending on what you're going to do. So I think Jim, my suggestion would be try and do the basic form right away on the finalist before the interview. And then before you make the final, sign the contract with the final person, you complete a much more detailed background check. And those companies will tell you what they can do for what.
I believe it even states in here that we should not make a final until we've had a background.
Yeah.
Until we've had the background check. The sheriff's office, it's my understanding, will no longer be providing this to us.
But when did they say that?
I told Sheila that. I haven't spoken to them, but because they can't give it to us in writing, we're a civilian, we're civilians. And it's constantly been, requested of them that it needs to be in writing, so. I said,
I think they're writing, that needs to be in writing, and I think that again, there used to be a company, and I've got a list of some other firms too, but the one I use a lot, but the cities that we work with use a lot in the past is very inexpensive to do just the basic checks. But there's a lot of companies out there where you can go on the internet and look at them.
we need to find one. Sheila had said the ones that she had found that they needed 10 or more, but
I
I
don't
believe
think
there's
that's
some
correct.
out there. And again, I haven't spoken to the sheriff's office. That was relayed to me by Sheila.
And maybe they have some ideas that they can use, and I can also send
Yeah.
the clerk some other ideas.
So we're gonna have to secure that,
Yes, yeah, and we need to start doing that now.
Yes.
Time to doing that.
yes. Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
Okay, I'm kind of, I'm gonna make some questions that we're gonna ask him. I like the idea of just using that one question for everyone, and also if we could, number them, give them a score, maybe 1 to 5 or something like that.
Yeah, but everybody has their philosophy on that. Jim and I have a little bit of different philosophies. I personally, I don't like scoring because not all of those factors are equal. A lot of questions are not all equal. And two, that's not a score. It really boils down to who's the best fit for the city. So my suggestion is that if you want to do that, you can, but my suggestion is not to do that because it's way more complicated. It's not like you can just give everybody an exam and they just fill it out. And again, not all of those factors are equal.
Okay, so do you agree with, we all having the same question?
Oh, I have the same question. What we normally do is, you go down the list like Mrs. DeVito, you divide it ahead of time. Mrs. DeVito asks 4 questions, everybody asks 4 questions, just go to mine, so you all can take part in the process.
Okay. Thank you.
So I guess from this point, as we go forward, we have, first off, we have to determine, I was very pleased with both George and Jim and very appreciative of the services they provide to us, and if they're willing to do that again, commissioners, are we in favor of that?
Absolutely.
So, George, Jim, do you want to confer outside the meeting room as to whether or not you'd be willing to do that for us?
Jim and I can both vote differently on this, but Jim and I discussed this last night, and we do, the concerns I have is we do have other cities we're working with, right?
Yes.
So, and we thought we were through with this city. Apparently, we love us so much, we have to come back.
We did.
So, but we are willing to come back again, and we're very, very hopeful that we can, we had a few little mishaps last time, but I don't think anything serious, we can get those corrected and go from there. And my suggestion is, if you want to make any change, at this point, if you want to make any changes to the questions, which is fine, I would give them to the city clerk at this point, and then later on,
Do you take suggestions?
Every question be recognized.
Yeah.
Commissioners, I'm gonna ask that you be recognized.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just wanted to know if I could ask that, submit other questions to you?
Sure.
Rather than you submit?
No, that'd be fine. It's your interview process, so you need to ultimately get down to questions and things. What Jim and I did is we wrote these questions based on the surveys that you did and to make sure that we were trying to cover all the bases, but certainly it's your interview, so yeah, you need to ask questions. And if it's just another question somebody want to ask, you can just, add that to the end of the meeting. You can certainly ask follow-up questions and stuff. But anyway, it's your interview process, you need to ask questions that you want to be asked. That's it.
Does that answer it for everybody, Commissioner Burton's question? Are we clear on the question? Are we good with the questions that we had before?
No.
Okay, do you want to expand on that?
I'm gonna take another look at them, and that's why I asked if it was possible for us, not just me, but for all of us, to take another look at them and see if we have some other questions or different questions that we feel would be more beneficial to what we're trying to achieve. That's all.
Oh, then that happens.
My suggestion is, why don't you, if you have any changes you want to make, give them to the clerk, and then at a council meeting, you can just talk about you don't have to talk about all the questions, but just talk about the changes you want to make, and just do that. I think that's the simplest way to do it.
Okay. Thank you. That's all I was, okay.
Do we have anything else on the questions?
No,
Yes, Jim?
Commissioner DeVito?
specifically, I have specific things that I think are important to adjusting in the process. I mean, one of the, I'm looking at the materials, at the end of the ICMA form contract, steps prior to recruitment. I think we need to take a look at those steps and some things that we did last time, that we could do just a little better, that I think would really help us in getting maybe more candidates, better candidates, and making this go more smoothly. George highlighted a few things, and I think I have a few more.
Okay, do you want to expand on that, please?
Right, unless, Commissioner Ward, did you have
No.
anything? Okay. I did this in order and, basically,
Does everybody have that in front of them?
so I'm looking at my list right now of things.
Should be on page
Yeah, that's right.
3.
Right past that.
Well, let's way towards the end
It's
of
right
your
here.
package.
Right there, that's me.
Well, steps
There you go.
steps prior to recruitment, says there's quite a few things that we should be doing. The next to the last one is prepare an outline of a recruitment plan. I kind of started that. It started out as a list of things that I thought we could just shore up a little bit. The main thing I just think should be in the forefront of our minds that kind of goes along with what the mayor said, but staff needs to be mindful of too. This is an executive level search. I know I was talking to a staff member with the last search and just about some of the process, and they said, well, this is the way we always do it. But this is a different hire. This is the person who has to have the utmost and expertise and responsibility and is gonna lead everybody else. So, we have to make sure that the process works for the leadership hire. It's not, because we're promising people significant pay benefits. And as the mayor said, it's just very key to the success of our city. Where the content of our advertisement, we might want to review that a little bit, or we could go with the same one. The one thing I would say is, I did a couple of pages about Crescent City with information about that. When it was made available online, it just said addendum to the city manager search. I think at a minimum, it should say about Crescent City, Florida, something a little, more inviting.
If I can, let me just expand
Sure.
on that. Several pages. When I went through yesterday and all the city managers that I could find in Florida, it's a very brief description. It's a very brief description about the city. So maybe that's
Well,
something.
there's a
that-
job announcement and then a profile.
And then a profile.
I think Mr. Vito was talking about the profile.
That's what I looked
Right,
at.
Job announcement first, the profile, and if you guys wanna, Jim rewrote the profile based on Mrs. Vito's comments, but if you wanna make changes to it, you guys can agree to it, you guys make the changes and run it. I think, but I think that, in my personal experience, I think that it's fine because the managers that wanna come here are gonna come here, get the tour, look at the whole community. Many of the cities, by the way, that use executive recruiters have just really beautiful, great looking stuff. They also get paid $30,000, they have tons of staff to do it. So, but Mr. Vito, if you're not satisfied, you guys want to make changes to it, be my guest, but it's a profile I think we're talking about, not the advertising.
But
That
I'm
what you're talking about, is the profile or the advertising?
no, I'm saying the profile and back to the advertising, I'm gonna try to make this quick, but at least if you're gonna have a profile of the city, I think we ought to take out that boring word addendum and just say about Crescent City, so that maybe somebody would be more motivated to look at it. When our job announcement was posted, and I thought one of the other senior advisors, Mark, what is Mark's last name?
Mark Ryan.
Right, he said, advertise your city, and Jim and George did that for us, they had those really nice pictures. When that was posted on I think it was the City Manager Association website, there was something wrong with our posting. It did not have a short description, it only had a link. You had to go to our website.
I think there was a job announcement and a link to your website on the profile.
Right, so, and then when you went to our website, I thought, this is just something that worked to our disadvantage, most likely. You had to click and click and click, there was no place on our website that
We agree
was,
with that was a problem.
right, that was clearly visible that said, we're looking for a city manager, and for example, so I think that, there's other cities had a brief job description up on the City Manager Association website that they could see, and I think it had something like salary and just whatever, it was a short description, then, you could go to the link. But our city website needs to make it 100% apparent, however it is, we need to do that, and, like, when you go to Madison's website, there's a pop-up.
Jim and I saw that too. We talked to your staff and this is why we asked for a change into the mayor as our go-to person, because there were several changes that needed to be made to the website. We saw the same thing, we couldn't find it on there.
Exactly, and that's
That needs to be done.
right, be a deterrent, so make sure it's clearly visible, unlike other postings, and what else? Oh, also, I don't know if this is appropriate, and this is for staff to consider, and that's another point on my list. There is a Florida League of Cities jobs webpage now.
I shared that with Sheila.
Okay, so, right.
Just online when we started doing the survey, or
Um,
the petition.
right, and, I think I sent that to Mr. Rohart, but that's another, okay, and here I have on my list, senior advisors, are they available? And so, the mayor wanted that, thank you very much, Georgia Jim. I have a section that says what resources are available to us, city staff. I think we need to, kind of decide who of city staff is going to be involved in this. I mean, usually other cities have city clerk, we have our human resource specialist or director, Sheila Walker. And then we also now have an assistant city manager. I think it really hurt us last time that we did not have a supervising staff member. And I understand, we talked at the last meeting, Mr. Rohart, does not want to take part in this, but I think it would be helpful to have both Ms. Walker, our city clerk, and the assistant city manager, and figure out who's gonna be the staff lead. It just seems to me the assistant city manager would be the logical choice. Because you're supposed to have a staff lead, and there needs to be some kind of supervision.
Well, last time the staff lead did not work.
But I'm saying now we have an assistant city manager and we have, I think we were in transition with our
So you're
clerk.
gonna transition with a lot of people.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and now we have
I'm
a
just
new,
saying, Jim and I were getting very frustrated because we
Right.
were trying to get things done and they weren't getting done, which is why we went to the mayor at the time.
Right.
And since this is a council hire, I think having the mayor involved in the process is important.
so background checks, we covered that. I do think it's important, and again, we need to have somebody on staff help us and figure out, where we can get proper background checks and who is going to do them.
I'll work on that. I mean, I can work on that. I'll work with Sheila and Jim and George on that if you'd like me to. Because I think that's important that we have to find that company.
I think I can be kept out of the process because it's two things we're not supposed to get directly
Okay,
involved in.
then I'd be happy to help with that.
But, and then, just about professionalism and how we operate as a commission, as we go through the process, in general, any information that we as individual commissioners receive or find, we should, I think, make a point to share it with each other. If we do Google searches or whatever, we were, told do not have individual contact. And as well, I found out during late, when we were down to the finalists, I just found out anecdotally from some of the staff, the finance department, that one or more candidates had asked us for specific information and we're doing research. So my question for George is, would it be appropriate and helpful for us to know, just have an update from staff on a regular basis if candidates are doing research on us? I mean, I'm looking at that as a positive thing.
Yeah.
So in other words,
I think
instead
it would
of,
be fine if they just inform the council if a candidate answers certain questions. Now, there's certain things we didn't get to the candidates some until last minute that we want to give all the finalists. We want to give them a copy of the budget. We want to give them a copy of your strategic plan. We want to give them a copy of the, all the personnel and where they are. Now, we did that last time, but we did it way late in the process, because again, Jim and I were having trouble getting things out. So those things need to be given to all the finalists. And if finalists want, you've got things online that they can look at. They're all gonna go through your website, so that things online. If they ask for any additional information, send it to them, and then they can send an email about it to all the council members.
right,
Just
just,
one thing that is critical, though, Mr. Vito, is that the council members, they, sometimes during the search process, there are candidates that try and play politics with the process and call council members individually and try. And it's critical that you don't have any, what I'm trying to say, not have any contact like that.
And we didn't have that this last time, and we were very careful to
But
make
there are
sure.
times that there are processes where that happens.
right,
And we were very careful to make sure that I had no contact in working with Sheila.
Right,
That I
that's
have
something we
no
can
contact.
direct to whichever staff member if any applicant asks for additional information, they're providing it to them to make sure the council's aware of who asked.
but an update email, because I thought ideally, we would not, some of us know that, and some of us not, that we should all have the same information. Last time we said on the advertisement, I guess that the point of contact for questions was Sheila Walker. Maybe we should check and make sure that she's comfortable with that. Maybe it would be better to have our assistant city manager be the point of contact.
Yeah, I was thinking that way. Yeah, so we do need to look at that and make sure that we have the right contact person.
I think that was putting a lot of pressure on Sheila.
Exactly.
Sheila is our HR person, and she should really kind of be the key person, but she's also, payroll, she just got a long list of stuff that she's gotta do, like, Melanie does over here. So there's just a long list because of the staffing, but, so I think we just need to figure that out today, who we definitely want for that point person.
Well, I was just thinking, Christine Marie, our assistant city manager has been with the city for a while, and she's a professional level,
I think
she'd be
it's a good choice, but I also don't
well
want,
spoken.
I don't wanna spit in Sheila's eye.
No, I don't think she'll mind. I don't think she'll
I'm just
mind.
saying, we wanna make sure though that we handle that correctly, that's all I'm saying.
Right, well, she has a full plate, and I think Commissioner Lori, he's nodding his head. My idea is I want to be considerate of her because she has a lot of tasks to perform. And I think that this might be a way both to provide quick communication and relieve her of some of that burden, because that is not in her regular job description. So, but as you said, I mean, if we want to talk about that more, I covered updates from staff on what is being done and processed, that would be very helpful. But additional staff for me. Let me check with him, did that, set interview dates and formats, obviously we have to have a timeline. And just, I think we covered most of what I have on my list. Somebody has highlighted that those were the additional things I had. And certainly, this is such an important process. I don't think it's a waste of time at all. I think it's the opposite for us, maybe till we get the timeline settled and we get all these things done to either meet in a special meeting briefly or as a part of our regular meetings to nail down the details. You know, for example, what questions are we gonna ask, or who is going to be the point of contact on the ad? I don't think it would hurt us to get together between a regular meeting and just make sure that we're all on the same page and this goes smoothly.
George, Commissioner Ward, you have?
No, I was just wondering if we're going to do that now. I mean, this is a special meeting, but
Yeah,
we can make those decisions right now.
that's why, it's a special
Yeah.
meeting and not a workshop, but we don't have the questions in front of us, so that is something that we will have to discuss
Yeah,
some
question.
at a later time. I think we can go ahead right now though and determine who's gonna be our point of contact. I think we've taken care of the fact that Commissioner DeVito, would like more, detail placed out there as far as in the profile. We'll work on the website, we can work with both our clerk and, our assistant city manager on that to see how we can have that on the website to where people can go to it immediately to see that. Some of them, some communities had it, some communities did not. But that's something that we can work on as far as getting that done. The point of contact, I'm very comfortable with having Christina Marie as the assistant city manager. We always have to be cognizant to make sure, and I don't think this would be the case, that whoever that is also not somebody that could be an applicant as we go forward. And it speaks to that in here, in this also, it also speaks to the interim and the role that they play. So, so I think that Christina Marie, if she's willing to do this, this is, I think she would be a good choice as a point of contact for them, initially. And, I think and making sure that Sheila is also, part of the conversation.
But Mayor, if I could, it was my assumption Christina Lee would work very closely
Yes.
with the
That's
human
an
resources.
assumption, so we have to make it clear,
Sure.
because we all know what assumptions do.
Well, she's the assistant city manager, that's her role, is to work with the staff.
So George, do you have any input?
No, I just think, I think for the applicants to contact, the acting city manager if they want more information, whatever, I think that works fine. Like, again, I think for the city advisor, will either contact her or the mayor, because there's certain things the mayor is doing and can only do, they will contact her about it, so. Again, I think all in all, things went smooth, but again, I want to emphasize enough, I think the assistant city manager is the best choice because it did not work out the other way last time. And yes, the website was a real problem, and I got the sensing that no one with the city knew how to change the website, so that whoever does that needs to be.
Our website needs, it's definitely, it's a commissioner, our website is definitely,
I wanna say it does not display our, the best side of us in any way. It shows a lot, our website does, and so we, I think, acknowledge that our website needs to be worked on. And where's the staff, you know, I mean, it's one of those things, it's just one more thing that's added on to staff. But we need to figure that out. Yes, Commissioner DeVito.
So who does make changes to our website right now?
Typically the clerk does.
Okay, because our clerk, I looked over there and she said, don't look at me, the clerk.
But that's because right now she's trying to wrap her arms around
Mayor, if I may, our website is being worked on. We are aware of it's, it's a mess right now.
Yes.
Michael is addressing that.
Okay,
We spoke to that this morning as well.
well, I don't know, to me, I don't think our website is that bad. I've been on city websites where you click on bar and there's nothing behind it. But as far as the city manager, search, I just think we need some kind of button or something really visible that,
And we can do
Page,
that.
the first page, you just
it's a one
That's
click.
what I-
Well, the button that says job opportunities, that's really what you need, some of the hiring, ones have that. You can actually highlight that you're looking for a new
Right,
city
right,
manager.
that's what I'm
And you
saying.
click the button and, you know, you can get the information,
And
but that
there
takes time, but it takes money. Okay, we
Well-
had all these things, this doesn't come necessarily for free.
Well, I think we have a way to put an announcement right on the front of our page, and that just, you know, regardless of jobs as a whole, this one, you want to make it easy for people, so we just need, to me, that one, well, the announcement that we are hiring a city manager, and then you'd be able to click on that and get there.
I think, may I speak? I have to ask everyone to speak. May I
You're
speak?
supposed to by Robert's rules, and sometimes we get a little out of hand here, and we have comments, we speak over each other, so I'm trying to get it to where we're back down.
That's why
to
we
where
have to, for
So thank you,
for
so that we
space.
all, so that we all have our
But I think it concerned me, when the mayor said that, you know, I mean, what if Christina wanted this job? Or what if Michael wanted this job? Or, you know, I don't know if that would, I mean, it would kind of put them on the spot to be the point person if they actually might be thinking, you know, those things.
Well,
I don't know, I'm just.
ethically, if they wanted the job, if they were planning
Yeah.
to apply for the job, then ethically, they should make that statement right up front, and we have to move on.
Okay.
That's
I
something
just
that
wanna make sure,
and-
I'm not suggesting, I don't think either one of them.
Christina
Yeah,
hasn't gone through that
Yeah.
training, but it's my understanding through going through the city manager training, that they're very aware of that. And it's even stated in here that if a city manager, he should not involve himself at all in the process if he's interested. And even if he's resigned,
And he has.
and even if he has resigned, he should not involve himself at all in the process. Is that correct, George?
Yes.
Yes, okay. So ethically, that's gonna be on both of them, as to, I know that Mr. Gilhart is trying to adhere to, yes, the professionalism that has guided him throughout his career on this, so. So I think we're pretty, set with that, is everyone set with that? And I envision that too, Commissioner Burton, that, you know, that's something, that there's a pop-up right there on the screen that, you know,
You pop it up.
that we're looking for, you know, and your city manager. Yes, sir.
I mean, I can volunteer to work in town web and the park to try and straighten it out a little bit, to get it a little more pop-up, because I mean, I have some concerns, I've had concerns with the website for a long time, and I mean, it is something that I'm somewhat experienced with. If you would allow me to, I can work with the clerk on that.
I don't have a problem with that, Commissioner, so are you okay with that?
I'm fine, as long as, Commissioner Ward doesn't put his own photo up there, or, you know.
As long as you don't have any information that's not shared with Commissioner DeVito.
Okay.
No, that's perfectly fine with me.
As long as it's okay with the clerk. Are you okay with that, Melanie?
Mayor, I'd like to say, posting jobs It's not my job description. So we'll have to address that with Michael.
Well, would posting jobs be possibly HR?
It was
Yes.
it would be. Okay. So, and that's why I said we've got to work very closely with Sheila.
Yeah, we should work.
I think what Commissioner Lori is talking about is just in general, is once we get it, how to get it, how to get it out there on the website.
Yes,
I think that's what he wants to
entertain that, Chair.
But, so I think what we're kind of hearing is, when we post that job description, we have to say, you know, when we're gonna post it, and then what the response is, who you respond to.
Yeah.
So, as long as there's no wrinkle, we would put, does that mean we would put the, assistant city manager's name on there as the point of contact? Okay, and in addition to the deadline for applying.
As long as she is not, I don't know, but if she's not, then I'm gonna recommend that we, then we need to have an alternate if she chooses, she's not in the meeting to speak for herself or given that consideration. But, then we would have to fall back on, I think then we'd have to fall back on Sheila, that Sheila would be the contact person, the point of contact, and,
Or, because on some, they put the city clerk as the point of contact, who they send the resume to, and then the city clerk would forward that, to HR, and could also answer any questions.
if the clerk,
Yeah,
yes.
how we do it, as long as when they come in,
George
once
gets
it goes out, that every Friday they get sent to Jim and I and all the council members, that's the critical component, right?
So I don't, Melanie, if we were to make you, if for some reason that they came to you and then you would disseminate them out to George and Jim and us as they came in.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And that was what I meant by wrinkle, is then, Christine Marie, you know, is planning on applying, something of that nature. Wrinkle.
Okay, yes.
Are we gonna discuss dates? Are we ready to make that?
My recommendation is that we do this as soon as possible. Mr. Brillhart, again, I'm going to, can't speak for him. I've asked him multiple times, and he is not interested in staying here. He has done an outstanding job while he has been here. But we're also in a competition. I asked Jim this yesterday, and I went and looked up as many as I could, and so currently these are the people that have postings. We have, of course, Madison now, we have Brooksville, we have Fort Walton Beach, Palm Coast, Dade City, Fort Myers Beach, Juneau Beach, Monticello, Jupiter Island, Bronson, Sarasota. There's a deputy city manager in St. Cloud, an assistant city manager in Wilton Manors. And the only reason I mention those is because their salary is well above ours, so that's something that somebody could, and Marianna, Florida.
For Myers
And
Beach?
Palaca, also, I have Fort Myers Beach. And Palaca, while they're in the interview process, you never know what's gonna happen, what will happen there either. So we've got there's quite a few, out there right now, that we have. Some of these are at the beaches. So my recommendation is that, that we get on this as soon as possible. George, do you believe if we were to, advertise, I think commissioners, would you have, do you want to come back for a second meeting before we advertise, or are we good with going ahead with the advertising? And if so, can we do a 30-day?
Yeah, you need 30 to 45 days,
Okay.
but 30 would work. You also, from what I've heard today, you also want to change it to where it says addendum to say more information on Crescent City.
Just about
About
Crescent
Crescent
City.
City, about Crescent City, that's the only change you need to make. You need to make sure then that it gets on the about Crescent City part, and the profile gets on the web page and front page if possible. And then you're all gonna review the questions, and then you're going to give changes to changes you'd like to see made to the assistant city manager, and then you're gonna verify that these are the right questions you want in the council.
And quite honestly, yeah, and quite honestly, the questions, we'll have a meeting after we have all the applicants anyway to go through and kind of review them. At that point, I believe that's the meeting when we can discuss
Yeah,
the
or
questions.
the meeting where or the meeting where Jim and I are here, we're discussing the recommendation by the applicants, would be a good time to do that also.
Sounds good.
Well, Mayor, I have a question. So, and I agree with you absolutely. I think we'll have plenty of opportunity to review those questions. But just as far as having those small but important changes made to the job description before it's posted, who's going to do that actually? Who's in charge of that job description? Because if it could be done before the commission meeting tomorrow, it could be passed out, and we could all just look at it and approve it. But who did that last time?
Jim did it last
Jim did
time. Jim Hanson did it last time.
Oh, okay,
But you've got the documents, so
right.
I think you can make the change here. If you can't, then phone Jim and he can make it. Jim, can you hear me? Are you?
Yes, I can hear you.
So if you can't make it here, it's very simple. Jim can make it his place and send it back in. Is that right, Jim?
Yes,
I think they can make it here.
Okay, just, do we know who is going to do that?
My assumption is the assistant city manager is going to do that because that's the one who's going to be put in charge of the go-to person on staff.
And Jim worked with Sheila. Sheila did the ads last
Again, if
time.
there's any huge problem with it, get a hold of Jim and just a very minor change. And Jim will do it.
So I guess my preference, commissioners, is that if we can ask that the staff make those changes and just bring it to us tomorrow night so we can all take a look, make sure it looks good.
But the change was just not calling it addendum, right? Calling it a conference and city.
Yes, and having the contact person. I'm just saying, if you want to make sure that things are done the way you want them to be, that we give staff an opportunity to put it in front of us, so we can just make sure that, I mean, it's gotta be proof. You don't want it to go up on a website and have there be something out of it.
I don't know if we can interject today to keep it on.
Yeah, I don't know that it's
I'm not
true.
right tomorrow.
Yeah, they've got a lot on them.
But,
Yeah.
well,
I mean, staff has a lot on them, so, I think that they could, if, my recommendation is that as soon as they get it done, that they get it sent out to us. Jim's the one that would probably make that one change, correct?
Yeah, Jim or your staff can make it. Jim, would you be able to make that change today and send it to the assistant city manager? It's just a couple words.
yes, probably, George, if you can call me with the details, the mics are a little bit choppy, and I want to make sure I
Okay.
got it straight, but I think I understood what you said, yes.
And if you would send it to the clerk, it might be easier if you send it to the clerk, and then the clerk can just send it out to all of us.
Okay, and just so I get the exact words right, I'm sorry, Mr. Vito, she already has. What's the exact word you put on there instead of
just about,
Crescent City?
right, that's my suggestion. Anybody has better one, I'm perfectly fine with that.
It's fine.
About Crescent City.
Got
And then if you would send that, if we can just get that sent to the clerk, and then once we've had a chance to read over it,
it. And make whatever change you want.
make whatever changes.
We
We
have
did
to
look
talk
it
over.
over before and approved it before, so I think it's gonna be fine.
But did we decide on the 30 days or 45 days? Because we have to say when people we have to pick a date for people to,
Yeah, I
So
understand.
Mayor suggested 30 days. I think that's fine. That's the minimum, that's fine. We're in kind of a hurry. We don't know what's gonna happen with
Mr. Bromar.
what's going on, so if you're gonna do that, I think that would work out.
well, I mean, to me, I would rather see us split the baby. I saw somewhere in the literature 30 to 60, 45, because
Commissioner DeVito, I'm
Yes,
gonna
sir.
recommend that we go 30. Mr. Bromart is, and I don't want us, we know the process after that.
Yes.
30 days, I think my recommendation, if we find after 30 days, and you see this happen often, or after 30 days, if you don't have the adequate response, then you can extend it out. And so I think we have that ability to extend it out. Is that correct?
Okay,
So that would be my recommendation right now, because we're already, while he said, he'll give us more time,
right,
I don't want to place that burden on him should he have an opportunity either,
Sure.
because he's trying to hold us together.
So if we go like 30 days from now, March 15th.
30 days from whenever it goes out.
Right,
Whenever it
that's
goes
fine, it's like 15th, I think it's a few days to get it posted. Yeah.
Jim,
Can I raise one issue?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, that would be a salary. I've sent you some information on salary surveys. I also noted there's Mayor, you're correct, there are a lot of cities that are open right now and advertising for managers. We have seen an increase in salaries for city managers pretty rapidly here over the last couple of years. Would you consider advertising for a range of a little bit higher? Obviously, I think the range was like 94 to 110. The last advertisement, we got, out of that one applicant who really had significant experience, and that, we all know how that turned out. I think if you were to raise it a bit, you might get others who would be interested. Perhaps raise it to a max of 120,000 a year. Might get you more candidates, better candidates to choose from. I guess the old saying, if you keep doing what you've been doing, you're going to keep getting what you've been getting. Most of the candidates, applications you got last time were not qualified. You had a few that were basically qualified, but I think you would have done better to have some more choices. You apparently didn't have a second person out of that group that you would have considered. Trying to get you the best list of candidates that you can, and I would think going up a little bit on salary might improve your competitiveness.
Well, I think that's a good segue into why we're here today, and that's to discuss what are we gonna offer, we're gonna move forward with the contract, not only on just salary, but throughout the whole contract. We haven't quite got there yet. That should be up for discussion today, and we should start hammering out some of the things that, I know I had buyer's remorse on with the last contract, so, I think that's a good segue to move forward into maybe the second part of this discussion.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, Don, thank you.
And this is for Jim, probably, since he participates in these processes quite a bit. It's true that their salary was 110, but if you'll recall, that total package they offered was up at about 108, $3,700 a month for insurance, $750 a month for car allowance, 10% of his salary to 401k. So my point is that 110 is just stated without explanation. It's kind of misleading. That's their total package that they offer. How do other cities deal with that, if I could ask?
Right. Oftentimes, the list in the job announcement that you would, for example, either participate in a pension plan or FRS or put money into a 401. It's very common. But let me take that question a step farther. Different people need different things in terms of benefits. Where one may need family health coverage, and that's a pretty expensive issue. Another may not need that. They'd rather have money put into that 401. Some people may be younger in their career and may not quite realize how much percentage they need to put in 401. Maybe they need something else. I think the commission may want to consider the total amount and give whoever they authorize to negotiate this some leeway in terms of not exceeding the total number. Like, okay, if you want more in your 401, maybe you can back off on this piece a little bit over here. Because you're right, it is a total package, and you can't possibly describe all of that in a job description. And again, you need flexibility because different managers have different positions, places in life and their career, and they want something different.
So, I'm asking, I'm not trying to make a comment. Do university has at state, base salary at 110 plus benefits, which are subject to some negotiation, something that gives you some leeway to let the applicant know that 110 is the pay, but certainly all those other components that factored into the negotiation last time were very significant.
Absolutely. Well, I think all the candidates are going to assume that they're going to get a negotiation on all of these other divisions, because there's so many issues that a candidate ought to ask about, professional affiliation dues, training costs, and all sorts of things, car allowances, or whether you're provided a vehicle, almost people nowadays, I think would rather have a car allowance and use their own. That's got a lower cost to you than providing a vehicle in total. So I would think, just saying, salary range, for example, 100 to 120, depending on qualifications, plus a good benefit package. I think they understand that meant that you're gonna have to talk about what that means.
To Dawn's question, in looking through all the advertisements yesterday, I noticed that there were quite a few of them that did list that, like Brooksville, 115,000, 20 days PTO, FRS, they're part of the FRS, paid health, tuition of $52.50 annually. Monticello did the same thing, it was 85 to 100 FRS, health insurance. So they did list out some of those, of course, it would be, that we offer. And I agree with Dawn that would make it a little more, I don't know if that's what you're saying, maybe I'm not agreeing with you, Dawn, but I think that would make it more enticing also. That if they see the salary and then they also see some of the benefits that we, that we could consider. Yes.
Mayor, if I could, I think Attorney Holmes had a great point. This kind of cuts both ways. I think most candidates assume that we will have benefit package. And I think it's to our benefit and their benefit if we have some parameters of our benefit package. Because what we ran into last time was, as Attorney Holmes said, this worked against us. There were very significant requests for that benefit package. And I think a mistake that we made in retrospect, and it's something that we really could do better, is don't just ask the candidates, will you accept our salary range, but will you accept the parameters of our benefit package? Because that turned out to be a problem. As I think Commissioner Burton said, she had buyer's remorse. To me, when I look back on it, it was almost misleading for someone to say, yes, I'll accept your salary range, but I am going to ask for benefits that will be a significant chunk change for the city that we had not at all planned on. So to me, I don't know, I tried to do a little grid. My word processing defeated me when I tried to get to page 2. I listed what we give and then some of what was in the international ICMA version of the contract. But I think we need to have parameters about that and decide, A, we need to set a salary, and B, we need to really talk about it among ourselves and make sure what we're offering is attractive, but is within our desire to pay.
Yes, and I agree with that.
Yeah, so, and I don't know, I'm just gonna
If
pass
you look at
this
the
down.
very back of your package,
Sure.
Steve also gave, our finance director, he gave us, a kind of a benefit summary of what we were looking at.
You did?
Yes, yes, it's in the very back, the very last page. Yeah, it's in the very last page of mine,
I didn't see it.
and it's attached to mine, so.
Okay,
She got it, Commissioner Moore got it.
I have not seen that.
What am I missing?
Here, you look at mine, you look
Well,
at
could
mine.
we have some copies?
Yeah, I'll get you a copy, but right now, you can look at mine.
Doesn't seem to be,
What here, let's, Melanie, this is what I think some of us have, and some of us did. I think it just got left out, because I looked at mine online and I looked at the print version, I didn't. It was something I've been hoping for.
It was part of mine, so it was obviously it was part of Ms. Moore, Commissioner Moore, so it was somewhere in there. But that's something that we have to, that as we go through, and I think this is part of us looking through this contract. If we start looking through the contracts, that will help us in this also. So I appreciate what Jim is saying, that even if with that salary range, that doesn't mean that that's what we're going to pay. That's a range based on their experience, based on what they bring to the table.
And I think as a commission, we need to put that range down and say, okay, let's start here, for someone with no experience, okay, because we seem to get a few of those. And then all the way to the highest end that has extreme, experience and what we are willing to pay for that experience as well. So it really is a range and it should be paid for, you know, accordingly to what they know and what they can bring to our table. Thank you. Joyce is killing with that one. Okay. Okay, so we have dollars.
I had you know, if we look through these contracts, there were the ICMA one, it was,
Yeah,
it's hefty.
yeah, it's.
And there's a lot of things in there that really, to me, did not apply to us. And so to go through that, you know, you have to, and it's hard to read.
Yeah,
I mean,
it was-
it reads more, it doesn't read more like a contract to me. We had the sample employment one. I did one also, and I apologize, I had some computer issues, but I did one. This is similar to the one that Benell had. And it speaks to, and I made some copies this morning of Commissioner DeVito, Commissioner Lori, just something for us to kind of, I'll give this one to Jim. You know, there's several versions, and I think we have to just kind of nail down, because ultimately, our city attorney is the one that's gonna tell us what's legal and what's not legal. And putting this together. But, I think as we go through this, we need to just figure out what is it that we want to see? What is it that we want to see? And of course, the benefit package is primarily the one thing that we need to make sure that we're pretty solid on. We know in the past, we have paid 10%, towards their retirement. And so that's something that we need to determine whether or not we're going to continue, that we would be willing to continue down that, you know, to look at that. I also agree with what Jim said, is that, everybody has they have something different in their life. They have different requirements. Some might want family coverage, or at least assistance with family coverage. Some might not need family coverage. Some might not need insurance at all. And so, you know, it's gonna be, as we negotiate this, George, please, and Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, we're probably gonna have to have an idea where we're willing to go, kind of what our top number is. And keeping in mind, everything we say here is being reviewed. So, so that's just as we go through this, I just want us to be very cognizant of that somebody watching this will see that. So I think, you know, also like Mr. Holmes said, is that we set a dollar amount, kind of, this is, I believe that's what you were saying, Don, something to that point, is that if we have an actual, this is our full benefits package and we know how much, then they have the ability to go, we have the ability to work within that range. Is that,
Right, I mean, depending upon how you decide that you're going to actually style your negotiations, I mean, the nuts and bolts of whether or not you appoint someone to actually engage in negotiations, there's gonna need to be some parameters of the range within which that negotiation can occur. Or at least, that would be my thought, is if you're going to recognize that some people prioritize health insurance or 401k contribution over their actual salary or over other benefits, then if you gave, for instance, that the mayor and Jim were going to negotiate it, or whomever, but the commission gave them a directive that the total value of that package could not exceed X, then that would give them the ability to vary among the elements of the package to try to recognize someone's priority. That was my only suggestion or my only thought. That's not obviously for me to tell you how to move forward, but it would at least give you, whoever's negotiating and having contact with the individual, and if you don't mind me just making offers some thoughts, everything that's been said, I think, has validity, all points that you're making. But if you do get in that next stage of negotiations, and I totally agree with what you said earlier, if that job interview occurs next time, and you talk through all the elements of your contract with whoever your applicant is, and you get to the end of that job, that interview, I agree, the question should be asked pointedly, are you willing to accept this package as presented? Are you willing to if a contract reflects what's here, are you willing to sign it? But then let's say you do, we don't live in a perfect world, and let's say that person says yes, and then, there's a follow-up phone call, like there can be. I won't reference the last experience, but that says, hey, we thought about it, and we need this component to be increased. If there's still room in that cap that was set and given to the negotiators, there might be an ability to timely respond to that request rather than having to call a special meeting. So just something for you to keep in mind, and you work with it how you feel best, based on experience, and that might have been a help.
right, just like when we're purchasing something and we say up to.
Yes.
You're willing to go up to this amount and then back it out from there. So that would, I do agree with Mr. Holmes, that would be very helpful. Commissioners, do you have, your comments? Commissioner Burton?
Well, I need to go through this, and I think we all need to start figuring out where we want to bring this forward, where we actually want to go with our next negotiation. I don't think we've really touched on that yet, and I'm listening to our lawyer. I like what you're saying, Don.
I can't do Mr. Burton.
I like what you're saying, Don.
Well,
So I think these are things that we need to start to discuss, and it's hard to discuss, I know, with the sunshine law and all that, but we kind of need to have at it a little bit. Right now, we're still talking, we don't have anything to really agree or disagree to at this point, just that, yeah, we need to move forward. That's what I'm hearing.
Commissioner Tavia?
Wait a minute, okay, so what I did, and Mayor, I agree with you, it's not so much a contract document. I think I've looked at the documents that were in our package and compared it to our the last city manager contract. They're not really that different. What we haven't done, and I think we can do, and I tried to boil it down, the grid that I did highlights the significant items in a benefit package, and I compared them to what I could find in the ICMA one, where I think we can look, if we look down here very quickly, We can look at items that came up in the last negotiation. We can see what we want to leave the same and what we want to change. I think a weak spot that we have for any city manager coming in now, particularly is our vacation, because it says earn annual leave, you earn 3 hours a week. That is 156 hours, or not quite, 3.9 weeks a year. That's a month, a year. And then your sick leave would be half of that, 1.5 hours a week and 6 weeks a year. So for managerial level people, that, that was one of the things that the last applicant brought up. He wanted upfront leave, and that is very typical for a manager level. They don't, earn it week by week by week. So to me, that's something that I think we could address. And if you notice in the second column, it says under ICMA, it has a standard upfront credit for sick leave and vacation. So to me, we could firm that up. And that also falls into the second page I didn't get to is if someone on termination, if we terminate them involuntarily, and that was an issue discussed with the last candidate, how much sick leave and vacation are they entitled to, and as well if someone leaves because of disability. So that's an area that I just think we're kind of out of date for a manager. I noted our last contract with our last city manager gave comp time. ICMA contract does not give comp time, and I think it's more typical if you give somebody upfront vacation, that they don't need
Here
that.
was, and somewhere in the contracts, in these contracts, it did talk about offsetting. Not necessarily comp time, but it did say that that they could offset. That there was, and one of the contracts did say, I believe it was the ICMA talked about that offsetting, not comp time. And I've never signed comp time, just for everybody to know that. The mayor has never signed anybody's comp time, or given anybody comp time. So,
But I just thought that was not really,
right.
as professional, but I think our vacation and sick leave formula are out of whack for your top manager, because typically they get up front. And that was one thing we had a back and forth about. And as well, I think our I don't know, there's one contract that I looked at that said, I think our contract does not allow taking more than 2 weeks at a time without leave of the commission. And frankly, I think our contract is tailored to us, maybe with a couple of add-ins, because it tracks some of the requirements of our charter. It mentions our charter, I think. And given that we're a small city, I think, we can't let somebody take off like for a whole month. We don't have that bandwidth here. So anyway, I wrote down a few things that I think came up that are in our contract. Some are not up to standard and that were subject of the negotiation. Another thing I want to highlight is, where was it? The relocation, blah, blah, blah.
Now, it says here, you said that it's reimbursable, but this says right here in the ICMA, moving and relocation, the employer agrees to pay a lump sum payment to the employee to cover all relocation costs.
Yeah, and it says it also covers the cost of selling the house.
Yeah,
So.
But no, okay,
No,
Right.
No, I was
So-
saying, that's
no,
what
that's what's in the
That's
ICMA.
ICMA.
that's what's recommended.
Yeah.
Okay, well,
They're getting up easy for $4,000 a month.
no, well, I don't think you can necessarily say we're getting off easy, and I didn't put the last request in there, but we don't have relocation expenses in our contract, and so I think, we're a small city, we're not a huge corporation, and I did read in ICMA that it said reimbursement, not upfront, and I did have a problem with the idea we would send someone a check before we got a receipt or they walked in the door. So relocation expense is something that is not in our contract, and I don't think we have the ability to give, very rich benefits that are described in ICMA. I just don't think we can do that.
But I do want to say this as far as the, with a moving expense. if you've ever moved.
Yes,
Especially if you're having to rent a place. And
Yes.
typically with a city manager not knowing for that first 6 months, they err on the side of caution and they try to rent and not buy, so that if something was to happen, they're not stuck with that. So when you're doing that, you've got, especially if you have a family somewhere else in a house, you're paying first, last, and security deposit. So sometimes that could go towards that. And then oftentimes, if they have to rent a moving truck themselves. So, I mean, I personally think that if they request it, if they need it, somebody might not, somebody might live right here. But that would be part of that total package dollar that we're willing to do, that some might need it, some might not.
Well, in the whole package though, we gotta keep in mind that we have X number of dollars.
Yes.
So if a person wants to add in a package, well, then there might have to be something else that comes out of the package.
Exactly, that's why I said the total amount.
Yeah, because that's what we kind of need to come to terms with.
well, as far as I can tell, now I'm looking at the benefits summary that our city manager, our finance director prepared. This is what was requested by the last candidate. I think it would have been helpful to have a second column that showed what the costs are with what we have now. For example, insurance, that was employees plus family, that $30,000. I'm hoping we can go down the list and come up with what we consider to be reasonable benefits, and a reasonable package. We can't advertise this position until we decide on a salary range. So I think we need to do that
We can
today.
advertise it based on a salary range. I mean, we can decide a salary range, not a benefit range. We
Okay,
have time to come back, we have time to come back for a benefit range and determine that, we can set, that we need to go ahead and set this. And in his defense, I will, at his defense, as far as where none of us knew, I don't think, I was caught completely off guard, and shame on me that I wasn't aware of how much it cost for family coverage. And he wasn't either, and he labored over that, and I know that he even reached out to Michael and Steve that afternoon and said, I can do Cobra for, I think, $1,700 a month for my entire family, rather than have to do that until we can figure out a new insurance coverage. And so anyway, so I think as far as the whole benefit, yes,
So
Commissioner.
one thing that I have noticed reading through all of this is it really states very strongly that the package has to kind of be in line with what we offer all of our employees. And our employees with health, with a health package is they only, it only involves the employee, not his or her family. And so, this might be a special job, but it's still a job. He's still an employer, she is, of the city. And it really says that you have to kind of maintain that as kind of a rule.
I didn't see that as a rule.
Yeah.
Jim, is that as a rule? Did you see that as a rule? No. It's not as a rule, it's a recommendation, but I don't see that as a rule.
Recommendation, which is suggest that whatever
I'm
benefits are.
not allowed to discuss the benefit packages, but I will say, my last city, I was the only one in the city that got family coverage, but all paid for by the city.
And this is an executive, this is the top executive position, and so I think we need to treat that like Jim has said and George has said, this is an executive position and we need to treat it as such. This is like senior management.
Yes.
This is senior management, and sometimes they do get perks. Their name is also the one that's, that's on the bottom line too.
well, they're the ones, our contract says and my husband just retired from senior management, which he did for 15 years before that. So I'm well aware, in our contract, it says 24/7.
Yeah.
And that is a huge responsibility.
Now, let me just say one more thing. So, one big perk that this particular, manager coming into Crescent City has, that we haven't really discussed yet, is they're gonna have an assistant manager, something that we have not had in a while. And I'm not sure how the breakdown comes between, right now, the executive, city manager and the assistant manager. Okay, what did we take from the executive manager and move over into the assistant manager? Nothing or something?
No, okay.
Buck stops, the buck stops with the city manager.
Well, I
Commissioner Lloyd.
understand that the buck stops at the
Right.
city manager, but,
Well, okay, so there's one person in charge, I mean, if you look at the contract, and even if you have like a assistant city manager, or if you have a COO, if you're in the nonprofit sector like my husband, if you have, your chief operating officer, there's still one executive with those executive authorities, and, I think that's just pretty much the practice. It is, I agree with you, it is a benefit that the city manager gets some relief from the day-to-day issues that for the past 20 years or more are whenever, we last had an assistant city manager, I'm sure Mr. Lloyd has, they do get some relief from those day-to-day, individual responsibilities, but I think I agree with, the mayor and Commissioner Lori, it's an executive job and you have one person at the top because they're the one that interface with the public and the city commission. They're the executive. It is a benefit, but I just think if we're going to do what the mayor suggests and get the show on the road with the advertisement, it seems like we need to make that decision about what salary range we're offering. And then, I guess, Mayor, you're suggesting that we continue to work on the benefit package.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we re-advertise the position with a salary range of 94 to 120. Sorry, I have it. Just passing.
I'll second that. Commissioner Warren, is that a motion? You're still talking, okay.
He's not, yeah. Do I have a proper motion to be on second?
Oh, I seconded it.
Okay, so you seconded it, okay. If we have, any further discussion? Do we have any other, I'm gonna take public comment. I just wanted to check to make sure we have no further discussion, so I take public comment.
Oh,
Okay.
well, I can talk louder enough. I don't need a microphone. Diane Sykes, Crescent City. I've applied for multiple jobs and I know that the interview process, like everybody else here, we've all applied for jobs. But one of the things, like you said, the last time wasn't taken into consideration is that a benefits package can run upwards of 50% of what the salary is, especially when you're saying, okay, they got a very experienced person, you put them at the top of the range, 120, 10% of 120 is a whole lot more than 10% of 94. So, perhaps the benefits package should be negotiable based on a cap as established by the city commission. And, like it's also been said, there's different benefits that different people are gonna need. If it's a family and the wife has health coverage, you might not need the health coverage. But it should be negotiable and it should be based on a cap, because the higher the salary range, the higher the benefits. And if you don't do something.
And that's what we're discussing, is that we'll cap that, and so we'll have to have a meeting, a follow-up meeting after everybody's had a chance to go through the questions, go through the contract, see what works, what we think works, what doesn't work. And also, as we go through the budget, right now, we need to make sure that whatever we do at this cap, that we can afford it.
Right.
We can afford it based on budget. So it's my understanding that we currently have a motion, and the motion is to advertise this, to start the advertisement as soon as the changes are made. from the addendum to the about Crescent City, is that correct?
But, and also well, salary range,
I'm getting to that,
Okay.
that's part of that.
that changed, but there's a couple more changes. Do you want me to say them, or did you
You're
want to say?
welcome, go ahead if you'd like.
So
to.
as I understand it, just to the changes to the addendum, the salary range, the date they're supposed to respond, and then, who is the, point of contact for submitting the resumes and asking questions. Those were the ones that I heard us say.
He did not include that
I
in
didn't put
his,
that, but I
in
can.
his motion, do you want to amend your motion?
Yes, I would like to move that we reapply for the position, reapply the position with salary range of 94 to 120, that we set the date for the end of the application period.
30 days from the
30
date of
days
application, from the date it
From
advertises.
the day we start advertising it, and that the assistant city manager be the contact person, and that they would make the addendum say about Crescent City.
And
Is that
Commissioner
that all?
DeVito, will you?
Certainly, I will second that, just, I think, Commissioner Lori said we read something, I think he meant to say advertise, he didn't say advertise.
Yeah.
Okay, I know he meant that, but yes, I second
It's cold.
that. It's freezing.
Okay, so if we have no further discussion, any further discussion? Commissioner Burke? You good? Commissioner Moore? Okay. Melanie, if you'll do a roll call for us, please.
Commissioner Burton,
Aye.
Commissioner Moore,
Aye.
Commissioner Lori,
Aye.
Commissioner DeVito,
Aye.
Mayor Myers.
Aye. Do we have, anything, any other discussion? Jim, George, do you need to bring anything to our attention? Okay?
Mayor, sorry, I just want to say one thing, looking at the document that was either in the packet or handed out, the new city manager salary and benefits summary as requested by former candidate that our finance director prepared. And the mayor was saying, you know, as we go through the budget, we need to keep all this in mind. That grand total was $168,215. So just bringing our attention to that bottom line figure with those particular
He based
configurations.
that, but he did base that on the $2,500 a month in
Yes,
difference and
yes.
not the 3,700. So
Right, so that would be even,
that would be higher.
right, so I'm just saying that that's the bottom line, and we need to, as you said, keep that in mind.
Okay. Mr. Holmes, do you have anything?
You're good, Adam? I'm good.
You're good? Okay. Again, Mr. Hanson and Mr. Forbes, we are so very appreciative. So very appreciative. Your background, your wisdom, is, priceless.
Yes.
And we hope, Mr. Forbes, I wasn't even expecting you today. I thought you would do this by Zoom, so thank you for taking that. Thank you for traveling in for us and to be here in person. In person always is more beneficial. It just is that. But because sometimes things get lost in translation between here and Zoom and to the next person. But we greatly appreciate that. And if you don't have anything other than we'll just continue and we'll go forward with this. Commissioners, do we all feel good about this?
Very much so.
I move that we adjourn.
Do we have, okay. So I have a motion to adjourn. Commissioner,
Second.
do you have something?
No.
You sure?
Alright.
You go last, because I've always wanted to make the motion to adjourn.
Okay.
I'll second.
We have a motion to adjourn and I have 2 seconds. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
So adjourned.
Thank you. Thank you, George.
How do I spell the assistant city manager's name?
Christina, CH